Good morning, Team Cintas. Matt Price back with you today. And today is just a refresher on the third topic that we had during our workshop. That was giving feedback. Our next video will be training our team members or possibly even reminding ourselves how to receive feedback and what to do with that. So as we think about effective communication and giving feedback, it's important to kind of think about some guardrails for ourselves, maybe some guardrails for the people we lead on how we do this. The first point that we talked about during the seminar was concentrate on the fact that feedback is not about the person. It's about the behavior. We all have experienced times in our work environment when we haven't been on our A game. And it doesn't mean that we're bad people or we're not good workers. It just means that we may require some feedback that pushes us forward, moves us in direction. Ways to do this is to concentrate on the feedback with using only with starting with the word I. I feel that this is taking place. I see or I've observed these things that have been happening. Focus on the behaviors and not your interpretation on the behaviors. We talked about when an employee shows up late. That's obviously a pretty easy behavior to focus on. And it's not about the person is always late or they are a perpetually late person. It's about the behavior and how it affects the work environment when they do show up late. Describe how you feel about it when you're generating the feedback and end with what you want. Be specific about what you want to see the changes are with the people that we're giving feedback to. I also encourage you to balance the content. We talked about sandwich feedback, leading with the positive, giving them the thing that they should be working on, and ending with the positive. I always recommend sandwich feedback for new leaders who aren't used to giving feedback. It does create some of those guardrails to assist them with that environment. And it can be difficult giving challenging news to an employee or somebody we're working with, or possibly even a coworker. The sandwich criticism can start with the positive, focus on the behavior, and then end with the positive for the solution that we've got to be doing. Ending with the positive should also think about doing actionable items, things that the employee can control, things that they can actually put into place to assist them with that feedback. Vague feedback is always challenging for somebody to have an understanding where they are and how they show up. Oftentimes, when I talk to people who are employees, they've received vague feedback, but they've been too scared to ask clarifying questions about how they can do better. So remember that as a boss, as a leader. We talked about making our expectations realistic. Are you asking too much for too much change too quickly as a leader? Are you just giving advice and not providing action steps? I always liked, we talked about the Netflix generation on how my generation didn't have a ton of channels to choose from when we were watching TV. I had 3 channels. But now my kids have 150 decisions that they can make just to watch one cartoon. And what's interesting, it is impacting our ability on our choices. So when I work with less tenured employees, I'm oftentimes not leaving things open. I'm giving them an either or situation with the feedback. And then as leaders, we've got to own the feedback. Sometimes I've seen some passive aggressiveness with leaders. Sometimes I've experienced passive aggressiveness myself as a leader. And I'm giving feedback that I don't really truly want to give, but I don't really own that feedback. Stay away from they and you statements because it's implying your opinion. It's not just your opinion that matters, it's the behaviors that they're trying to change. And the last part in the review is be timely. So often people are not timely with their feedback. They'll experience something, and then as leaders, as bosses, as management, we get busy. Or we really don't want to have that conversation again. Or maybe it's a challenging conversation that we know needs some care and some effort. Oftentimes, we'll put that feedback off and we won't be prompt with it. And notice for you as a leader what comes up when you do that. If you notice that you've been delaying feedback or delaying some kind of issue that we've got to talk to employees about, see if it's creating resentment, negative feelings towards that person. Once the resentment starts, once I start avoiding them in workplace or avoiding them when I'm leaving home because I don't want to have that conversation, it can foster resistance. So, one way to break this cycle is to just have open, honest communication. And with that open, honest communication, make sure at the end of the meeting, the one on one, maybe it's impromptu, that you set a time in the future where you're going to check in with them on that feedback. So you can reward them with the progress or help them along where they've been struggling. So that's giving feedback. On the next session, we're going to talk about how we can train ourselves and we can train those people who work for us on receiving feedback. I think oftentimes we forget that receiving feedback is a skill. Go out there, make it a great day, and onward and upward. Take care.